All right, everybody. Hi, my name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today I have the pleasure to have Jodi-Ann Birch. Welcome, Jodi, to the podcast.
Hi everyone.
Great. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Jodi?
Jodi-Ann. So these days I like to call myself one of the doctors of chaos in in the sense that when people ask me what do you typically work on or what do you help people with, it's always process improvement, business transformation. Ideally, what I focus on is helping business owners and small business operators look at the chaos that's within their organization, try to diagnose it, try to understand what the key points for improvements are, and then help them to strategically streamline their operations. So I started this in 2011, and how I ended up on this path is completely random. My first day of working, I had an internship, and I went a day early for my internship because I was just so excited. And when I went, the business team was having a meeting and they were trying to do a process flow of what was a small medical marijuana company at the time. And the process flow was being really difficult for them. And I was standing at the door waiting, and I just blurted out, well, that's easy because I'm a science major and having to do flows and charts comes easy to us. A lady walked up to me and she said, can you help us with the process flow? And I did. I went up to the board, I started working on everything, and I said, well, it's simple. You have this problem and you're trying to get to here, and this is how you go. And she said to me, what are you here for? I said, well, I start my internship in biotechnology today. And I was really proud of it. And she said, have you ever worked in business? And I said, no, I have no interest. Business is boring. She said, okay. The next day I showed up for my actual internship, and I was told, well, my internship with the research department is no longer available. And I was sent to commercial operations, and the rest is history. So I guess that comes naturally to me. And like since then, I've worked in like several different industries in consulting, from manufacturing to consulting to product improvement. And it's always been the same thing. So it's just understanding flows, and more importantly, how different areas in a business is supposed to work and how you can help business owners to kind of optimize their operations when you are standing from the outside looking in. So that's basically what I focus on. And 3 years ago, I incorporated Asera in the US. We've been operating in Jamaica for the last 8 years, but we decided to expand into the US and actually leaving KPMG just to make sure that there wasn't any conflict of interest. I started working full-time on business consulting with large corporations. So we mostly have like Fortune 500 companies, but we started working with entrepreneurs through charity or through foundation work. And I have found that they have, I think, more need for business optimization and transformation than large organizations. So now we're focusing on small and medium-sized enterprises.
You said it took 2 years for you to build your business to a six-figure. So talk to us about that.
All right. So I came to the US. You're starting over. You have no credit profile, and in the US, your credit profile is everything. So I had no credit profile. You couldn't get a loan. It's really difficult to get a loan. And as the business owner, you are the one that's doing personal guarantee for your business. So when you're starting out and you're starting from that area, you're either going to be relying solely on your savings, and that's going to be depleted very fast. So I had to learn very quickly on how to build business credit. And more importantly, how can I leverage my existing network and also at the same time trying to run a very lean operation. So those are three distinct things, and I'll break them down. First, on the lean operation. As a business owner, sometimes it gets very easy for us to see all the things that glitters. So I need an admin assistant, right? You need to go with a huge marketing budget? Do you need an entire office that's decked out? Do you need an office space that you need to rent? And I had to go to bare minimum. So it's using WeWork office, co-share, the co-working location, right? That was $100 a month. So we opted to do that and not have an office. We still had virtual mailbox where we could collect mail, but we could use basically their entity as business address for us, right? We went with doing I would say freelance for any social media work that we had to do. So we use Freebird, right? And they were doing it like for $150, right? But at least you were able to get your name out there. You have a lot of offers that businesses offer. So LinkedIn has a trial that they have for business owners that you can leverage. So does Google for even like ad marketing. It's a small budget, but if you really are trying to start lean, that's something that you should look at, right? And we decided to look at Upwork for any assistance that we needed, and we did not get a full-time admin assistant. We decided to just focus on when we needed help. So we would like work with contractors on an hourly basis. So the entire idea is keep your operations lean. I had a home office and it wasn't anything fancy. It was just what I needed, absolute bare minimum, because it is a consulting company and you really don't need a lot. Now, the same thing holds true. It doesn't really matter what business you're in. It's looking at what is the minimum viable, product or minimum viable operations that I need. Because until you start earning money for your business, then none of the other operational costs actually start making sense. It's like really sunk costs, right? So you have to start generating money or generating brand awareness really quickly. Then the next part is leveraging your network. As you can imagine, coming from Jamaica to the US, my network, or people tend to think that my network would have been primarily Jamaicans, right? That wasn't the case. So while I was working on projects, and I knew for maybe 3 years before I left KPMG that I wanted to have something in the US, what I would do, I started reaching out to people that I worked with in the past on LinkedIn, right? You go to networking events, and every time I traveled to the US, I always made it my duty to go to a conference, meet people, right? And you're not meeting them to say, oh, I want to start a business, because that's very transactional. It's actually building relationships. So people get to know who you are as a person, right? They know who you are as an individual, what you stand for. You're actually building relationships. And because at the time I was in a position to be working with team members in the US, I started building relationships there. My first contract actually came from somebody I met 8 years prior when I was working at HGS, and it was through LinkedIn. So when I left KPMG, I sent out a note that, hey, I've left KPMG and I'm going to start, doing consulting, and this is what I'm going to be focusing on in my business. And if there's anyone who has any opportunity or anything, they can send to me. And he reached out to me and said he's working with the client in the UK, of all places, and they needed someone to come on to help them with service delivery optimization. And that was my very first contract. So I left KPMG in August and I started working with this client in September, right? That wasn't through sheer luck. This was someone I would have met well beyond that time. And I started with that one client. And even when you have that one client, sometimes there is a urge to start increasing your operational expenses. And that first client was, I can give numbers, right? That's fine, right?
Say that again.
It's okay to give numbers, right?
Well, it's up to you.
Yeah. So that first client was, I think, 10,000 a month, right? Flat fee. So that was a retainer. That was the first retainer I ever negotiated. So I was very worried if I was doing it right, but I went in there offering them value. So I'm not working for hours, I'm available, and my availability is this time, but I'm completely dedicated to you when I'm available during this time. It was just myself, right? And that was a 13-month contract. So that one contract alone, you could have seen was over 100,000. The second thing I see business owners do, at least for the small clients that we work with, they go, so I have this one client, now I can sit, right? Actually, what you have now is one major risk because you've put all your revenue into one person, which means that if anything goes wrong with this relationship, you're going to be in problems. If anything happens with this client, that's where your entire revenue is. So we kept operational expenses small. I'm still working through all my networks. I'm still reaching out to people on LinkedIn. I'm still going to conferences. I use Meetup. There's something that they have in the US where you have groups, so entrepreneurs in the afternoon, or even random netball, because I'm a netballer, right? Netball, badminton, anything to just meet people, right? And I'm building my network while at the same time keeping my operations low. And the third thing I needed to start building business credit, right? So I had to first get a secure credit card under my name. That's how I'm building my personal credit. But on the business side, I started using net 30 accounts, right? And so you have Quill, for example. What a net 30 is, it's basically a vendor that will extend a credit line to you, right? They extend a credit line to you and then they report the credit line back to the business bureau. So they may report to Dun & Bradstreet, they may report to Experian or Equifax, right? And you have different tiers. So you have the first tier, which you call tier 1 lenders. And for them, you may pay an administrative fee, but then after you pay the fee, you may have a minimum amount that you need to purchase each month, but they report that trade line for you. And after maybe 3 or so months of reporting, you now have a business credit profile. So I started with Quill. I use Granger, that's another one. I then made sure that I worked with them, very, very, very good working with them. And then you have companies that will report Divvy. Now it's called Bill, but before it was called Divvy. And essentially what they did is that they give you a cash card and you can make purchases for your business with that cash card, but you have to pay it immediately at the end of the month, right? So I had 3 credit lines that was reporting directly to my business profile. And I would, make sure that each month you're making a purchase and you're paying it off at the same time. So within 6 months of being here, my business had a pretty good, like an A+ credit rating, right? My personal still coming, but my business had a really good business credit rating. And then once you have a score with Dun & Bradstreet and Experian, you can then go to banks or lending institutions or what you call tier 2 organizations and ask them for credit extension. So in this case, I tried Amazon. All right. Amazon has a net 30 line that they use for just basically normal things that you buy on Amazon that you can get invoiced, net 30. So I tried with Amazon and I got through with Amazon. And now I have 4 credit lines that I'm working on, right? And those are reporting. So those were the 3 things I did to start. It wasn't easy. You're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to hear a lot of no's when you're trying to do that. After I would say 6 months, the business had a credit profile. I had 1 major client. I used lead generation services to get the other 2. And the one I used was Bark. Essentially, you set up a profile with them. You have to pay for, you have to pay credits so that you can respond to solicitations that come in. But that was fine. That was a part of my small marketing bill, right? We had 2 clients coming through that, and those were small clients. They just needed, one needed business consultation service, but they only needed 3 hours a week. And the other person needed us to come in and do an audit of their financial, it was a financial services company, right? However, the one that just needed 3 hours a week eventually started giving us more work because small business owners want to know that they can trust you, right? And if they trust you and they start working with you and you're able to provide value for them and they're able to see results, right? They'll give you more. So we went in, we had a business strategy meeting with her and her team. We kind of walked through, what we do. Then the next thing they asked us, can you write an SOP for us? We wrote 2 SOPs. They were fine with those 2 SOPs. They came back to us. Can you write 2 more? And SOPs are standard operating procedures, right? That we was writing, and we wrote that for the business. Then they came back and said, okay, we're going to go to the bank and we need a business plan. Can you write a business plan for us? Yes, we can write a business plan for us. And we wrote the business plan. And then once they got the loan from the bank, they said, well, we're going to need now operational support. It was at that point that I said, okay, can we negotiate a retainer? Because a retainer is going to be beneficial for both of us because it means less for you on an hourly basis, right? And you have consistency. So within, I would say, 9 months from coming to the US, I had a credit line for my business. I'm working on my personal credit through secure credit cards. I had 3 clients. 1 was a large client, 2 were small clients, right? And I was still keeping my business operations lean. So I was here in February, and by November of that year, I was steadily making 20,000 US per month, just across 3 clients. I am still going to WeWork, right? So I'm still using a desk at WeWork. And when you go there, you basically, it's whatever desk is available. So that is fine. I'm still using Upwork. I'm using freelancers, right? We're still using Freebird for very low rate marketing. I'm still using Bark for my lead generation services, and I'm keeping all my expenses low. We did not hire our first full-time employee until this year, and we're in year 3 now, right? And that was a business development officer. And the only reason I hired a business development officer was that I was sure that hiring this person would be more of a return for the business than an expense, because you don't want your first 2 or 3 hires in the business to be roles that are not going to be income generating or can either help reduce your load so that you can work on income generating activities. So I would say that's what I did, being really strict in the first couple months. And within the first year, we were at over $20,000 a month. That's really 6 figures there. And that was 3 years ago.
You say passion sometimes is not enough. Talk to us about that.
So when you're passionate about something, it gives you motivation, right? You have drive. You get up in the morning and, you want to do this, but it's going to go away sometimes, right? So life is it's a cycle. You're up and, there's down. You're going to have losses. You could lose a client. The market conditions could change. At the time when I started my business, it was just the end of COVID. And, we all know that so much was happening at that time. That's, people. You can have health scares. There's things that can happen in your family, or just your general life. There is going to come a point where motivation and passion is not enough. Or sometimes what you're passionate about is not what's going to be driving revenue for your business. And those are, 2 things. So you might be passionate about, let's use like my case and my perspective, right? I am very passionate about transitions, doing process flow, strategic. I'm very passionate about that. I hate doing auditing, right? However, I'm very strong at auditing. That it's one of my strengths, but it bores me and I hate doing it, right? If I were to follow my passion, it meant that I would not want to do anything that's related to auditing or auditing services. right? Because that's not what I'm passionate about. I would just want to do, the business transformation, the business development, because it's nice. You get to come up with a whole lot of different ideas. You get to think out of the box. But when you're auditing, you have governance frameworks that you're checking against. It's really black and white, right? I have a business that I need to drive. I can't stick to my passion. I have to look at what's not only passionate for me, but what is feasible. And I try to balance it. So I do take on things that have the business development aspect in it. But at the same time, because I'm really strong at auditing, I'm not going to put auditing away. There are going to be days where you're not motivated. I'm a business owner, and there are times when I don't want to do any work, right? There's some times where you're going to feel like you're burnt out. If you're sick, you're going to have off days. And it's really on those off days that you have to have discipline. Because when passion and motivation is not there, discipline is what you need to work on, and discipline is what you need to focus on, right? Discipline may mean that I might need to come up with standard operating procedures so that if I'm not there, if I can't do it, and I need to get outside help, whether it be for an hour or a day, there is somebody there that can follow what I have written or what I have recorded, and I can get it done, right? That might not be something that has any glitz and glamour. Administrative work in the business is very dull. You're not passionate about it. You may not want to do it. And I meet so many small business owners, like, for example, working with a bakery. Her passion is baking, right? That's all she wants to do. But her business was not making, it was really not profitable. And she didn't understand why she was not. She's seen all the money come in, but she's in negative. And they've been in negative for years because she does not want to focus on the business side of her business. She just wants to focus on the bakery because that's her passion. You have to be able to balance it. So you can set up small times where you can say, okay, I'll set aside 3 hours a day, 3 hours a week, 1 hour a week to get this done. That's discipline, right? Or if you are able to delegate, that's also a form of discipline, where you're going to have someone else do it, but you still have to be disciplined enough to have checks and balances for that person and still be involved. So that's the thing. And I know no one wants to hear it, because when you hear people talk about starting your own business, they tell you, oh, you can leave your 9 to 5 and you don't have to worry about this and being bored. But when you're a business owner, when you have anything that you're doing, passion is not going to be enough. You have to be disciplined.
We talked about overnight success. Sometimes people are trying to find a shortcut to success in entrepreneurship. Talk to us about that.
All right. Shortcuts. Yes, you do have some people who get lucky, right? My mentor said to me that luck is not something that just happens out of thin air, right? Luck is preparation that met opportunity, right? And the two things were able to just make a really good synergy. I'll use my case and my example, right? I have a lot of people that would say that in a very short time, what I've been able to achieve with my business, that seems like, it's easy. It was, okay, you were lucky, you were, no, I was not. You had to build relationships, right? If you're starting a company, you may have to do a lot of learning, right? Or you can use a very simpler term. If you want to get fit and you're going to the gym, you're not going to see results in 2 weeks. You're not going to see results in 3 weeks. I think the general rule of thumb is that you have to wait maybe 12 weeks before others see the results. You may see it in maybe 8 weeks, but it takes 12 weeks because it takes consistency, right? If you want to get it faster, you do have a lot of weight loss medication and drugs, but they cost you, right? And then you're looking at quality. So there's a triangle that you have in project management, and it's the same thing in entrepreneurship: time, quality, and cost, right? If you want to go quickly, it's going to cost you more. and the quality might be impacted, right? If you want quality, right, it may take longer. It might cost a bit more. And if you want low cost, it might be quick, but the quality may be poor. So you're always going to be trading something. You want to start a business and you want to make 100,000. You might get to the 100,000 quickly because there are things you can do. You can sell some courses, you can resell, but how are you going to be able to maintain that? Sadly, most businesses don't get past the 5-year mark, right? And the reason behind that, outside of just not having proper financials, is that did you actually set up things on the back end for this business to be successful? It's not a fast race, it's a very slow one, but it's a slow one that you can succeed in if you actually just focus on the areas that you need to focus on. So it's not overnight, and to others, it may appear that it's overnight. And the reason for this is a lot of business owners talk about their success. So you'll see a bunch of stories online with people telling you that they're making 6 figures or they're making millions and the glitz and the glamour, but no one really talks to you about how difficult it is. No one really talks to you about the fact that as a small business owner or anyone that's, sole entrepreneur, anything that you're doing on your own, there are going to be days that are not going to be good. No one talks about the fact that a lot of time you're preparing even before you leave the current job that you have, right? So you're preparing sometimes for years. Sometimes you've had multiple failures as a business owner. So you might have 3 business, 2 business, or 1 business that failed, and this one did well. Those were all lessons. Those were all best practices that you're taking and you're putting it into something new. So this wasn't overnight. It took effort and it took work, but no one really talks about that. So it's not overnight. It's going to take work and it's going to take effort.
Talk to us a little bit about how important delegation is.
Delegation. Delegation is important, but it's difficult. Delegation means you can move from being an operator in your business to being a business owner. Delegation means that you can focus on steering your business and not working in your business. But delegation is difficult for a lot of people because you deal with imposter syndrome, right? If someone is coming in to do this job, what are you going to be doing? That's the first thing. Then you deal with trying to get it right. 1 + 1 = 2, but so does 2 + 0, and so does 3. You have many ways of getting to 2. And we tend to focus a lot on sometimes the process and not the vision. So you have someone that comes in and yes, firstly, do you have a process for them to follow? But you want them to do it in the exact same manner that you do it, right down to the way that you write your zeros. And this is someone that's coming in new to your organization. So delegation is hard for a lot of people because it's almost like an attack on you that someone else is coming in, right? Delegation is also difficult for a lot of people because now you have to hold someone accountable. It means that you're not always going to be, the friendly, happy-go-lucky person, because you have to sometimes inspire the person. Sometimes you have to correct the person. Hopefully, very rarely, you may have some form of disciplinary either talk or something that needs to come in. And that is not easy for a lot of people. And either on the 3 areas, right? Because people look at inspiration in a lot of ways. Inspiration through fear. There's a lot of leadership styles that you can look at. And delegation is also difficult for a lot of people because it means now that you have to focus on steering somebody, right? If you don't have a vision for your company, and if you're not clear on that vision, it's going to be really hard for you to explain to somebody else what that vision is. But delegation is important. because as long as you are the person that's knee deep in your company and you're the one operating in the company and you can't delegate the work and can't delegate the activities, what you're doing is you're trading your time for money, right? You are not a business owner. This is going to be controversial, but you just got yourself another job, right? So if you're going to grow your business and if you're going to grow your company, you need to be able to delegate.
Where can people learn more about you and follow you?
So I can be followed. My company's Instagram page is Asera LLC. You can find us there. We're also on LinkedIn, Asera LLC again, and we are on Facebook. Our website is Asera, ASERA, solutions with an S, so solutions.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. You can just look for Jodi-Ann Birch, JODI-ANN BIRCH. And you can shoot me a message if you have any questions.